It's live. Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait a few seconds. I see there's a lot of people joining. So let's let everyone come in and take a seat. All right. I think that's most of the people have arrived. It's great to see you all. This is a joint webinar between Breezeway and Hostaway. We're going to talk about cleans today and how you can turn your vacation rental cleans into a moneymaker. Now, I want to thank you all for joining. Actually, this is a record number of signups that we've seen. And I can also say that I have never before seen a webinar where we have so many people asking us questions in advance of the webinar. I received 11 emails from you with some of them with tens of questions, and that was amazing to see. Now, I do want to encourage you to ask those questions. There's a Q&A section here in Zoom. You can ask them all during the webinar. Some of them are probably going to be answered before the webinar, but we want to keep this interactive. So put them in there. We might address them right away, but there will be a Q&A section at the end. Now, I want to start by introducing you all to Corinne from Breezeway. Corinne, thank you very much for joining.
Thanks, Marcus. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and would you like to introduce yourself and Breezeway a little bit?
Absolutely. So as Marcus said, my name is Corinne Oki. I am the VP of Client Experience here at Breezeway. So I've been with the company for about 4 years. And prior to that, I spent 7 years in the vacation rental industry with a little company that some of you guys might know called Flipkey, which was ultimately purchased by TripAdvisor. And I worked with property managers all over the world, actually, in helping them distribute their inventory and to find guests and collect guest reviews. Took a quick break and then was approached by Jeremy Gall, who's the founder of Breezeway, about joining this team. And I love this industry. I love everybody that works in this industry. And I'm really excited to be able to share a really great product that helps you guys all be really successful in your day-to-day. If you're not sure what Breezeway is, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I'll give you a quick high-level overview. We're a property care and operations program specifically designed for vacation rental managers, and we have 3 different types of products that our clients utilize our services for. So we have an operations product that allows you to schedule and coordinate and execute your cleans, inspections, and maintenance. We have a messaging product, which allows you to communicate via SMS with guests pre-stay, post-stay, drive revenue through things like additional gap nights and more, as well as a safety product that my colleague Justin Ford runs, which is really just kind of identifying and bringing to light the importance of safety and making sure that your rentals are safe for those guests and through a program called our STRSI certification program. So lots of stuff going on over here. I'm really excited to be joining the Hostaway team today to chat with you all about how we can turn those cleans into moneymakers for you.
All right, thank you very much, Corinne. And I see in the audience, there's a lot of people who already know me. Thanks a lot for joining again. My name is Marcus Rader. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hostaway. Hostaway partners with the brightest and fastest growing property managers to provide them with the software solutions that they need to scale their business. And when I say partner, I really mean that. Have a look at our reviews, and you'll quickly realize why so many people change their PMS and vacation rental system into Hostaway and stay with us for years. I see that many of our clients are also on this webinar. I hope you'll enjoy what we're about to share here. So now that the introductions are over, let's get into the content here. Why did you all show up and sign up in such huge masses? Well, cleanings have been a really good topic that has been mentioned a lot over the last year. And and what we found when talking to property managers and specifically to our clients is that there's actually quite a few of them who aren't sure whether they're doing it right. They used to do it one way and they changed, but at some point just other priorities took place. But now that the whole industry has been highlighting the importance of cleaning, and for example, Verbo and Airbnb has brought it out as a unique selling point for vacation rental properties, we decided to throw together this webinar to teach you and to let you ask questions about the best practices. So first of all, cleanings is not supposed to be a task or something that that removes money from your cash flow. It's supposed to be a moneymaker, and that's what most property managers get wrong. And first of all, what you're going to learn here is how to eliminate labor costs, callbacks, and manual work with your guests and with your cleaners. The second thing you're going to learn here is how to drive the top line revenue by providing additional services that are in very high demand right now. And the third thing you're going to learn is how to use cleanings to elevate your brand. Right now, there's a lot of guests that are booking with property managers that they know from before. The direct bookings are at a record high in the industry. But you want to make sure that every guest that stays with you actually becomes a repeat guest. And cleanings is one of the most effective tools to achieve just that. So yeah, if you're interested in these topics, please stay around. Now, Corinne, you have some very interesting research to share with us.
We do, yes. So, I think as Marcus said, it's really important to think about how you're handling your operations and what you're doing within your your individual businesses. So, one of the things that we want to look at and think about as we're talking about this data and the cleanings is, this is not only about elevating your company's brand, but also the industry. I think that saying is rising tide lifts all boats or something like that. And it really is going to, make a distinct impact on your day-to-day. So one of the things that you're seeing here are a lot of statistics that we pulled together at Breezeway through our 2021 property operations survey. So this is a survey that we've done now for the second year, and we're surveying thousands of property managers all across the country and world, actually, to understand how they're sort of looking at operations within their business. So there's a ton of really great information that's going to be being published in the future, but today we wanted to share a few of those with you. So, I think it's no surprise to anyone that the pandemic saw a really significant increase in the attention to detail and the attention to cleanliness by your guests. In fact, 3/4 almost of the managers who responded to this survey believe that increased expectation is here to stay. We have heard from managers that guests would come in and find a scratch on a Teflon pan and all them automatically assume that everything in the house wasn't clean. So really fine attention to that from a guest perspective. And we're not expecting that to, really reduce at all. Those expectations are going to continue to rise as we have more and more people who have traditionally been hotel stayers, as they're starting to come into the vacation rental industry and learning about the nuances and the differences between a hotel experience and a vacation rental experience. We're just going to continue to see those concierge service sort of expectations increase.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No. Yeah, I wanted to say that's a really good point here, that this whole industry is becoming a lot more professional, and cleanings isn't the only aspect. To give one example, what happened last spring was that a lot of property owners, they went and stayed at their own properties because they couldn't really travel anywhere else. And from what I understood, a lot of them actually improved the properties. So the overall quality of the properties went up. At the same time, what's happening is demand is going up and supply is not keeping up with that. So prices are going up. And these factors combined, that you have better properties, but you have also higher paying guests, combined means that if you're not elevating your properties, and if you don't provide the type of cleaning they can, there is competition out there that is going to be able to provide it and is forced to provide it as well.
Absolutely. Many of you probably thought you couldn't get your owners to leave. I know talking to some managers here on Cape Cod, we're based out of Boston, and they had owners go in for the spring. And then as rental restrictions were lifted, they were saying, you guys got to go. We have people that want to rent these homes. So some of you probably thinking we couldn't get the owners to leave. But I think you're right, Marcus. Those that were there were making improvements because they were spending so much time in their homes. They were identifying areas that it could be improved by. So I think, obviously those guest expectations certainly increasing. We're also seeing, as a result of that, and just as a result of the impact of the pandemic and cleanliness, we're seeing that there's a much higher focus and more scrutiny to that cleaning process. And so one of these stats that you're going to see here is 60% of managers customizing cleaning checklists per property. Now, one of the things that I really love about that is that that's a core function of Breezeway's system. So that is great. It aligns very much with what we're doing as a business. But one of the things that I think is really important on that is that, so often we've said, here's our cleaning checklist, and this is what you need to do when you clean a house. And we've treated that checklist as though it was the same across a one-bedroom studio in a condo, one-bedroom condo, to a 5-bedroom home with a pool on the beach. And we're not, all of these homes are not equal. And so the work that needs to be done in that 5-bedroom home is very different than that which needs to be done in the 1-bedroom home. So we're seeing a really high propensity for managers who are not only customizing those checklists on a per property basis, but they're really giving prescriptive brand guidance to their operations team so that they can execute on those out in the field. And one of the things a couple of the things that does is that it really drives accountability. If you as a manager have been using a paper checklist, I'm sure you have seen, right? Somebody come in at the end of the day to sign off on the clean and just, yep, I did all of those things, right? It makes people a little apprehensive about checklists. But part of that is because so many of the things on that piece of paper aren't applicable to the home that they were just in. So customizing these checklists to the individual units is really going to allow your team to have accountability. It allows them to reduce the time sort of searching and manually trying to do something that they see on the checklist, especially newer cleaners to your program. And I think one other thing when we start talking about that prescriptive brand guidance is, I'm sure if we did a poll, and we don't have a poll built in here, but if we asked people, how hard was it for you to find workers in this past 10 months, 12 months, you're all going to say it was really hard, probably as hard as it's ever been. And that meant that you had a lot of new people coming in. And so as a result, they maybe didn't understand the inventory within your program. And so you really needed to help them be successful. And so one of the things that people were doing in order to handle that was to provide them with photos of how that property should look and how the furniture should be arranged, or what your brand expectations are. Not only does this elevate your company and the experience of your guests, but it also goes back to that point that Marcus made on the last slide about driving repeat business. Those repeat guests are significantly cheaper to manage and maintain than a brand new guest. So I think that, as you start to think about that, these are all really important things to consider as you're sort of looking at how you run your program.
Yeah, actually, employee retention is something that has been a topic a lot recently, and I actually wanted to share one property manager that I spoke to. They had 5 cleaners, and 3 of them quit during this year. And the property manager reached out and asked, well, what are we doing wrong? We're nice people. But so I asked the property manager, when was the last time you took the full ownership and you went and cleaned an entire unit yourself? And he started laughing. But I told him, no, I'm serious here. When was the last time? He said, oh, that was more than 5 years ago. And I asked him, okay, I will help you. I'll make sure you have a great team in place if you just do one cleaning. And we had a call the week after. He was stunned. He was so shocked over how different the experience is. Because when you got a property that's well set up, where everything works, you know, the TV, the Teflon pan doesn't have a scratch on it, then you can have a checklist. And then you can follow it. And then it's super simple. Anyone can understand that. But what happens with properties is they live. That one thing that, you know, someone stole, or maybe a device broke or an appliance, it's not there anymore. You can't clean it. And something else is a bit broken. Maybe it's in a different location, maybe because it's not possible to have it in that location at that time of the year. And suddenly the whole list system breaks apart. So what you need to do as a manager, if you want to make sure your staff is motivated, you need to actually understand what they're going through on a day-to-day basis. And doing, let's say, once a year, a couple of cleanings just to see, is your process watertight? If you can't do it, you're probably not going to be able to hire people to do it for you either.
That's absolutely true. And I think that, you know, we're sort of veering out of the course of like, oh, I was on a webinar yesterday, and a property manager down in Florida with about 1,500 units said, we have to take the term, they're just a housekeeper, they're just an inspector, they're just a maintenance tech. The folks who are doing this work that, you know, Marcus, that you just shared in that story, these are your brand. These are the eyes and ears, and these are the people that are in and making sure that that guest experience is really spectacular. And at the end of the day, if that person doesn't do the right thing, maybe because they weren't trained properly, and we're going to talk about some of that as well, but you know, if they're not executing on your brand, it's up to you to help train them and make sure that they can be successful. Because the guest is not going to say, well, I was in the house that was cleaned by Corinne and it was really dirty. They're going to say, I was in the house that was managed by X company. So I think you also brought up a really good point there, Marcus, which is if issues aren't being reported and there are problems in the units, and that's not making its way up to actually take action on, that's a problem. This stat is from our survey, but it is actually it's indicative of a fact that there's about a 14% increase in the number of issues that have been reported this from 2020 to 2021. And I want to caution everybody to say two things, which is that I don't think that means that there are more broken things, right? I don't think that this is indicative of more things have broken. I think what it is that historically, to report an issue or to share feedback that something wasn't working or was broken was a really arduous project or process, right? You had to, you know, do the clean and then maybe call the person or call the manager, or you had to email them, or you send them a text. And that manager was in the middle of 70 other things. And it was really easy for that to get lost. Now with some of the technology that's out there, you have a really clear path of these are issues that have been reported. And while you may not attend to them today, they're there for you to monitor and execute on in the future. I don't believe, I have a story from a client up in Oregon, in Sun River, Oregon. And when they started and implemented Breezeway system, one of the first conversations I had with them was, wow, apparently none of our properties have mattress pads in them. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, we have just been inundated with reports of missing mattress pads. And I said, okay, so is this a new issue? And what she said to me is, I asked the cleaners that, right? I asked the cleaners, the inspectors, have those just never been there? Oh yeah, we noticed that was gone, but we always forgot to tell you. This is like obviously a really big piece of it, right? That's important to have from a safety and sustainability perspective. And so that increase is likely not that these are new issues. It's just that now you're finding out about them, and it gives you that chance to improve on them and to deliver on it. And when you deliver on it, it's going to have a direct impact to your business. So I think, let's talk about what that actually is, right? Not only why you should do it, but how does it actually drive value and revenue to your company? There's some big numbers on this slide. 17,000 in labor cost, 20,000 in additional services. I mean, I can speak to, what I would envision as a property manager. If I can find an extra 20K, that's a pretty good day in my business. So let's talk about what these mean and why clients are actually seeing these results. So I think the $17,000 in housekeeping costs is going back to one of the things we talked about previously. It is not only that they're focused and actually completing work that is applicable to that home that it is that they're doing the work at, but there's an efficiency matter in we can smartly start to move people to places where it makes sense. If there's not enough work in one area, or one team is working really quickly and getting through their work and completing their job, we can move people to another job to move that along and save those costs to get everybody moving and move forward on that. Another thing is that as a result of more issues being reported, you're working in a manner in which you're identifying and being more proactive about fixes to your homes. So that's resulting in fewer callbacks, which is resulting in fewer emergency work orders. You're using data in many instances to make smart decisions. You know, if you have repaired a dishwasher 6 times and you're in May getting ready to go into the heat of your season, it's in your best interest and ultimately the owner's best interest to potentially replace that dishwasher. But if you don't know about those things and you don't know how many times you've serviced it, it becomes really hard to make that argument to a homeowner. And so utilizing this and being able to make smart data-driven decisions is driving that significant reduction in callbacks and those emergency work orders. Because we all know that when that happens, depending upon what the issue is, you may have to move them to a different unit or something of the sort. So, I think all of that, the smarter work, the proactive approach to the maintenance and the work that needs to be done in the properties is driving that increase in guest reviews. Fewer issues when somebody's in your home makes them happier guest, which really represents your company in a great manner and ensures that you're getting those great reviews.
Yeah, speaking of reviews, there's a lot you can do regarding cleaning also proactively with the guests before you even get a review, and coming back to the labor costs. Keep in mind that whether you have an in-house or an outsourced cleaning task force or team members, a large part of the labor cost is recruiting and training. So what you want to do is really make sure once you have someone on your team, keep them on there. And one way to motivate them is probably getting that feedback back to them. Just like Corin mentioned here earlier, that nobody really mentions the mattress protectors were missing, but how often do you call back your cleaners and say, hey, guess what? The guest after they left a great review. That can really make someone's day. And what you can also do if you wanna do performance reviews is you can ask every guest, hey, it's your second day. We just wanted to ask, is everything okay? Is the place up to your standards? And if they say, yeah, everything is perfect, then put that in a file. I know in Hostaway we have a place to leave a review for the cleaner. And then at the end of the year, you have a couple of hundred of these. Check the averages and show them. That can be really motivating.
Absolutely.
And it, of course, helps also getting better reviews.
I was going to say, Marcus, the other thing that's really interesting there, one of the things that you talked about in checking in, not only with your staff, but checking in with your guests. I think so often this part of the business is you didn't do this and this was wrong and I have this callback. It's really important to share the positive things with those housekeepers. And one of the things we're going to talk about in a couple of slides is how to actually motivate and communicate with your team, because, to your point, a positive reinforcement goes a long way. The other thing I just want to talk about really quickly before we move on to how you can actually do some of these things is this 20,000 number. So this 20,000 number is an increase in additional services. So that may be anything from beginning to offer mid-stay cleans to offering early check-ins to extending stays because you have some some smart technology that's going to allow you to easily communicate that, and you're not manually reaching out to every guest that's supposed to check out. These are really, these in some instances could be small incremental improvements that really add up to be much larger, impact on your business. So one of the things that we see a lot of people doing, specifically within our clients, and I'm sure, Marcus, you guys see this as well, but with Breezeway's system, our guests actually have the ability to message and say, so we have our messaging product that I talked about. One of the things that you can do to those guests is actually reach out to them on their second day of the stay and ask them, how is everything? Is there anything that's not meeting your expectations? Is there anything that we can do? In that scenario, depending on the response, maybe you need to go in and offer a refresh, or you need to offer something else. The other thing that you can do is offer them the ability to check out. So specifically, if you're in a drive-to market, you may find that your guests leave really early in the morning. And even though checkout is at 10, they're leaving at 6 or 7 to get on the road and beat traffic. When those instances are happening, giving your team a way to notify, or giving your guests a way to notify you that they've checked out, is going to allow you to really utilize that extra 4 hours to set your day up to be more successful. So when you're doing that and you're letting them notify you, you can then share that with your housekeepers so that they know they could go in and start cleaning. We've got clients who are utilizing this feature, and even before the managers are coming into the office, their cleaners are out at a property starting that clean, which does a couple of things, right? It allows the property to be ready earlier, which gives you the opportunity to potentially offer or charge for an early check-in, or just offer it and delight that guest. And it gives that cleaner the opportunity to potentially take on another home because they've finished all of the jobs earlier because they were able to get started earlier. So this is really empowering to your staff, and also to your bottom line. I will say one thing. There was a question that came in asking if the survey results were just from Breezeway clients, and they are not. There are a lot of Breezeway clients that participated in the survey, but it was open to anyone within the industry who'd like to provide their experiences. Okay, so at Breezeway, we have looked at thousands. I have seen more checklists than I ever expected to have seen, 5 years ago. But we've looked at tons of them, and we've sort of taken some of the top tips and tricks that people are using in their housekeeping checklists to provide you guys some sort of takeaways that you guys can do. So one of the things, and I've talked about this a couple of times now, is customizing your clean. Every property is unique. Every owner is unique. Most properties are unique. Certainly every owner is unique. And so the work that your team is completing in the properties should actually reflect that. So I was just on a call last night with a client, and we were talking about this concept that we have called property specific requirements. And as we were sort of talking through building out their cleaning checklist and going through this, the general manager said, hey, we are, he said, think about, he said the Smiths, I don't remember what the owner's name was. Think about them. Every time they come in, they want to know why X, Y, or Z hasn't been completed. And I'm sure if you all take 10 seconds to think about it, you have an owner like that, right? You have an owner that has very unique, specific requests that they want when they come into their home. And so this is really important to be able to execute on that. So customize those cleaning checklists, not only on the attributes of the home and the things that are actually exist and need to be kind of done at that home, but also on the preferences of the homeowner. That's super important, because what it really does is it allows for you to delight them every time they come in. There are so many different things. I've heard more kind of things I never thought that an owner would ask for, but that they want. And your job and the promise that you make to them when you bring them onto your program is that you're going to deliver on these. But it's hard to do, especially if the same cleaner isn't always cleaning, without a repeatable process for them to do. So think about customizing your cleans specific to that home and to that homeowner's requests and preferences. focusing also on the details. This is super important. It kind of goes back to the same thing, but being confident that everything that you're doing and all of the things that are most important within that home are being attended to, not only from your brand expectations and the owner expectations, but specifically in the world that we live in now, to the CDC recommendations, making sure that they're using the appropriate supplies and the appropriate techniques. That's really important to make sure that that the work is getting done and done correctly to ensure that that's helpful. I see another question in here talking about sharing checklists, and yes, we're gonna give you away in a few minutes on how you can find some of these checklists that we have. Last point on this slide that I want to just talk to is take the time to do it right. We all know that on a busy turn day, everybody is trying to do so much so quickly. And so it's really important to get through and get all of the units clean so your guests can come in. But that extra 5 minutes may be the difference between an incredible stay and an acceptable stay. And so making sure that you're wowing your guests is super important. And what we talked about earlier with getting that head start when that guest checks out is really important and going to allow you to do just that. So this is an age-old debate, right? Do you have internal staff? Do you hire contractors? I'm not going to, if you're on one camp versus the other, I'm not going to be able to convince you of which is right or which is wrong. And quite honestly, I think it's all very dependent on the where you're located, on your business, on the size of your business, all of those things. So we're not going to talk about what is right versus what is wrong. You're going to see here from this statistic and this chart that you can see here, there's a pretty big mix of who uses internal staff and who uses external staff. There are a couple things that are the same regardless, is that the traveler behavior in most markets, now you guys where you're at might be an exception, but in most markets, we're seeing shorter booking windows and in some cases longer stays. So it's important to be able to have the staff to be able to quickly pivot and make a change or do something different within your business. So regardless of how you staff and how you accomplish this work, we all know that it has to get done and it has to get done really quickly. Some of you are probably seeing the term seasonality on this slide and laughing and saying, wait, when is there an off season? We didn't have that this year. I know that most markets have just been completely slammed, and that off season or shoulder season seems to be a little non-existent. But we know that seasonality makes it, for some companies, almost impossible to have internal staff. Now, there are ways that you can engage your internal staff throughout the year if you don't have the volume to actually clean these homes throughout the entire year. But I would say if you are thinking about having your staff internal, think about spreading your cleans out over the week if you generally have, Saturday to Saturday stays, right? If a house is empty, you maybe don't have to go and clean that on Saturday. Maybe you can move that out. I've seen a lot of managers who spread out some of their cleans throughout the week so that they can give their employees consistent work and they're not just working them on Saturdays or Sundays. If it is off season, whatever that means to you in your market, think about having these folks go in and do inventories of the homes, have them do preventative work within the homes, make sure that the homes are winterized and that they're ready if you don't rent in that winter month. So a lot of different things that you can do throughout the year to sort of spread that work out. One of the benefits of contractors is that, I talk to so many people and they say, well, I just gave them all the cleans and they need to get it done. And there's value there, specifically if you have a lot of last minute bookings. But I want to give you guys just a couple of thoughts as you're thinking about internal staff versus external. One is internal staffing is going to give you significantly more control. You guys have the ability to tell them how to clean, which products to use, what they need to wear, when it needs to be done, how long it should take, the order in which it should be done, etc. All of that is control that you get by having an internal team. When you go to an external team, you lose a significant amount of that because they are 1099 external contractors. So in those scenarios, you're able to share with them how the clean should look and when it needs to be done. But if you think back to that last slide that we looked at, right products is really important. And with a contractor, you're not able, technically to tell them which products to use. So I know that there's a gray area for many people where they have really strong relationships with contract companies that are sort of an extension of their company, and they work really closely together to determine that. But in most cases, if you're using contract cleaners, they are solely going to be told what needs to be done and when, and not how. And that's super important for a number of people.
Yeah, we get asked this question a lot. It's of course not only cleanings. There's a lot of other things people can choose whether they do in-house or not, such as guest communication, accounting comes to mind, building a website, and as a rule of thumb, what I tend to follow and find successful is really thinking about what is your core business. If your core business is property management, what does that mean? Does that include cleaning? Then if it does, according to you, then do you want that to be handled by a different company? And that quite often finds the way, because if you're and you can maybe look at if you have a property owner and they ask you to send over some material, probably you write them an email, or you might have a PowerPoint to show them why they should join you or why they should hand their property over to you. Look at your USPs. What is it that the property owners expect from you? If you're saying that they should trust you because you are an expert at cleanings, then probably you want to stay on top of that. But if your USP is something entirely different, for example, you want to use us because you get the most revenue out of your real estate assets, then probably cleaning isn't a core functionality and a core product of your company. And yeah, I think you can look at almost every part of the business like that. Should you use an outside agency or should you use in-house? There's also, of course, if you're a small property manager and you're growing, you might be doing even things or everything yourself. You may not be able to hire a single full-time person just yet. Then you may be forced to use contractors until then. But even in that case, you should have a plan in place and decide for your company and your vision, what is the core product? What is the core value that you're providing to the market? And then if that core value is done by a third party, there's a chance that they'll simply steal your business, or you won't be able to maintain the quality of your core value.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. There's a couple questions in here that I think makes sense to sort of answer now, but I want to make one other comment on here, Marcus, to something that you just said, right? Which is about what is your business goal, right? There are owners that are strictly out to get bookings and get revenue, or drive bookings and get revenue, and that may be the way that your company operates. There are also people who really want really high quality homes that they can manage well, and so figuring out what sort of the vision for your company is super important to make sure that you're bringing on the right owners so that you continue to deliver a great experience to them. So there were some questions, we'll get to those at the end, about contract cleaners versus internal. Really quickly before we get there though, I do want to comment here and just talk really briefly about how you can motivate and communicate with your staff. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Continuing education is really important. As with all jobs, when there's an opportunity for professional growth and an opportunity to succeed and to grow within an organization, people take a lot more pride within their work. So continuing to educate your housekeepers on the products that you're using, your brand expectations, the tools that are available to them, and how to use those safely, really makes them comfortable and drives loyalty and good results, right, from your team. So, continuing to help them understand that, and then putting the data to work is super important. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago on a call with a client, and just because we think that 3-bedroom, 2-bath house should take X amount of time to clean doesn't necessarily mean that it does. And so understand the time that's being spent in properties, understand how those reviews are then associating with the time that's being spent. Just because it's always been that way doesn't mean that that's always right. So utilize the technology to understand how the work is being done, what is being done, and then tweak and refine from there is super important. Most importantly, and I know that Marcus has said this and that I've said it, provide positive reinforcement to your housekeeping teams and actually any of your field staffs. More importantly than anything, these folks have been through the ringer in the last 12 months. Many of them have worked 7 days a week for weeks on end in a really physically demanding job. So it's often thankless. They often don't get all of the positive reinforcement. Make it fun for them. Do things to make them feel appreciated, to recognize, and to help them feel like they are an important part of your team. So I think that this is really important. Without your staff to actually go out and do that, you're going to have some trouble in making sure that you can deliver a great experience for your guests. So let's talk a little bit about how Breezeway and Hostaway work together. And Marcus, I'm going to let you sort of take this over. I've been talking a lot. I'm going to take a drink here. So why don't you share this with everybody?
Yeah, all right. Well, there's a lot of vacation rental software out there, and Breezeway is a partner of ours. They're specialized in coordinating, verifying, and communicating property care. So not only cleaning, but also maintenance. And they're specialized in doing that, and they're one of the leading solutions on the market. What we, on the other hand, do, we're property management systems. So we got, in addition to Breezeway, we have over 70 other partners that are integrated with us. But specifically for this purpose, our system allows you to actually monetize those cleanings and get the guests to pay for early check-in, late checkout, extra cleanings, and so on. And I also wanted to mention here, we have a special offer for all of you. I saw a very nice question there on how Breezeway works with Cyrus. I personally think you should consider switching to Hostaway, and that's why I will give you a $0 implementation fee from hostaway.com. Just go to hostaway.com and sign up today. Now, for those of you who are considering using Breezeway, or even just want to check it out, see what it offers, please go to breezeway.io/demo. Same offer here. You get a free implementation. And I know personally, both of these companies, they provide a very good handheld onboarding. We will really make sure that this is the right solution for you, and make sure that you're happy with it, whatever your choice is.
Well, Marcus, we just threw everybody a lot of information. We have all of those questions that came into you in advance. I jotted some of them down so that we could make sure that we could address those. And then we also have some questions that have come in live as we've been speaking. I did want to say two things, which is earlier this year at Breezeway, we held our Property Operations Summit. It was our first one. It was very well received. And I think we had maybe 30 sessions over a 2-day period. All of those recordings are available on our website. So feel free to check those out. It's all about operations and cleanings. We had some really big heavy hitters within the industry joining us and sharing their expertise. And so would love to, let you guys know that that's there. Along the same line, somebody asked about sharing checklists with you guys. So we have a lot of checklists made available on our website. And I would encourage you to certainly visit that. You can grab some of those websites or some of those checklists and think about how they would work within your own business. You can see on here, both Marcus and our contact information. But the other thing, sort of thinking about some of those ways that you can get information. One of the questions that came into Marcus, which he was kind enough to share with me, was, how do I actually clean specific items that are within my property? So there was some antique furniture and some, not sort of day-to-day run-of-the-mill, like, stuff, some really important things that are a little bit more complex to properly clean. I I'm not a very good cleaner. I can talk a big game and I can help you understand how to run it. But I certainly, if I was the owner of that company and had to do it, I would be having to figure something else out. So what I'm going to say is check out our content online. We have some really great information, but also consider joining VRHP. It's the Vacation Rental Housekeeping Professionals Group, part of VRMA. They have really great content information. And there's a lot of Facebook groups that are out there for peer-to-peer conversations. There's tons of engagement, tons of conversation happening where you can speak to other managers and ask them questions, and folks are so willing to share. So some of the ones that I'm a part of is Vacation Rental Women. That's run by Amy Hynode at VRM Intel. There's Vacation Rental Housekeepers. That's run by Steve Craig. And then there's also another group called the Business of Short-Term Rental and Property Management, which is run by Heather Bayer. Super engagement, a lot of opportunity to talk with other peers and meet new people and learn from them. I'm blown away by how, how helpful everyone is. And I'm sure, Marcus, you guys have a lot of really great content on the Hostaway website as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're producing a lot of content. I think our latest post was about managing your rates during high demand times such as we have right now. Let's see if we can answer a few more questions. So
one of the questions, Marcus, that came in, and it looks like it came in here again, was about piece rate versus hourly. And what makes sense and which is the way to go. It looks like somebody's asking that similar question. Similar question here.
Yeah, I can maybe share my view is that no matter what the job is, you want to make sure that you have the right incentives in place, and you also want to make sure that there's a financial motivation to get it right. So, for example, do you want someone to clean a place really well up to your standards and then pay them for the time it takes, when you know that different guests take different amount of time? Sometimes guests stay, and the only sign you ever see of them staying is that the sheets are in a slightly different position. But then you go looking in the kitchen and everything is the same as before. That's a very easy clean. Yeah, and I think even more important than how to pay them is how do you track the performance? So what are the KPIs you have, and how do you communicate those? So for example, when a new person starts at a company, you want to make sure that they understand what are the numbers that are being tracked, and that goes for cleanings. Good numbers can be, well, how good are the reviews that come from the guests that stay after you clean? Another one could be, how many times during a year have you reported that something is broken or needs maintenance? A third one is, well, what's your average cleaning time per property compared to others that are also cleaning? Another one is, how many complaints have you got from guests for the cleans? Clearly communicating these KPIs and actually following up on them, it can be very motivating, because even if something is off, then you can discuss it and find out what went wrong. And I think that's something that you will then see within your teams. How should you pay them? And I can guarantee you that if you're considering whether you should pay an hourly salary or per cleaning, these numbers will show the difference. It will be very clear. But I can't, of course, know for your situation which is better. But having those numbers available will guarantee that you have less headaches, and your employees will be happier as well.
Absolutely. And I think that the one other thing I'd add to that about piece rate versus hourly is that on a piece rate, regardless of how quickly or how long it takes that manager, that housekeeper to to actually complete the work, you're paying the same rate. Whereas if you're paying them hourly and they're taking, maybe they're a person down, that amount is going to increase. The other thing is when it comes to callbacks. So Marcus's point about using these KPIs and tracking these appropriately is super important. When you're paying piece rate, you're paying them to deliver you a home to your expectations that is ready for the guest to come into. If it doesn't meet them, you can bring them back without having to have any additional payment out to them. So there is certainly an incentive to do it faster, because they may have the opportunity to, they may have the opportunity to get another clean. But if they don't do it right, they know they've got to come back and fix it, and they're not making any more money. Whereas if you're paying somebody hourly, if they have to come back, you also have to pay for that. And the other thing, Marcus, you mentioned this, but it came in as one of the questions, which is, how do I verifiably ensure the quality of the clean, right? How do I know that if a guest calls and says that the kitchen is dirty, that they didn't mess it up, so that they could get a refund? Because we know that today's guests, sometimes they're just looking for some way to get a refund. One way that I would suggest doing that is using photo verification. So have your housekeepers or your inspectors or whoever is the last person in your home actually take pictures of how the home looks, so that when that guest calls 2 hours later and says, look at how messy the kitchen is, you have some proof that that's not how it was at 3:45 before they checked in at 4 o'clock. It happens. I know a number of clients that have that have had that happen, but photo verification covers you on that pretty well.
All right, there's
guys.
Yeah, we're a bit over time, but let's answer a couple. Wow, there's an anonymous attendee. I really like that name. I'm gonna give him my shot. It's a really good question. At what point amount of properties does it make sense to use a channel manager? I think this is a very similar to a question as any company would ask. At what point does it make sense to have a CRM? At what point does it make sense to have a website? At what point does it make sense to have a phone number? I'm assuming here you're not only talking about a channel manager, but also a property management system. In general, if you rent out your own cabin or your beach condo and you have someone cleaning it, you probably don't need Breezeway, and you probably don't need Hostaway. But if this is a business, if you're planning to grow, you are going to need not only the tools to help you grow, but you're also going to need the knowledge you need to grow. As we see on this webinar today, there's a lot of different ins and outs that are quite intricate and can have a massive impact on your business. And we're only talking about cleanings, but managing properties, there's 10, 20 other topics besides cleanings that you need to decide on. So I would say if you're serious about managing properties or owning multiple properties and growing, then the more professional you make it and the more you learn from the experts in the industry, the easier time you're going to have. You're going to have less trouble and make more money.
Yeah, and I think Marcus, I think you're totally right. There comes a point when some things become extraneous. I think understanding what your goals of your business are is super important. And I would say specifically if you're just starting out, the people in this industry are the nicest people I probably have ever met, generally speaking. And everyone is more than happy to share with you, I just saw something on that one of those Facebook groups where someone was looking to, I can't even remember what it was. They were looking for something, and the amount of people saying, hey, PM me, I'll send this to you. There are a lot of people out there who some of them have been doing it a short amount of time. Some of them have been doing it a long amount of time, and they're more than happy to share that with you. So I did add, there were some questions to repeat those groups, and I added them in so everybody can see them if you want to join any of these.
Excellent. Let's do that. Then let's share those groups also where we share the video after this. There's one question here. I'm not sure if you want to answer how you different from Properly.
Yeah, I think Daniel, feel free. The VIP at breezeway.io is on here, and you're also welcome to email me directly, Koryn, Koryn at breezeway.io. Happy to chat with you. There are a number of tools out there, and I think evaluating what makes the most sense for you, what scales, what grows with you, what works for your business is most important in what you decide to do. So I would certainly say we'd be happy to have a conversation with you. We can throw around a lot of sort of high level assumptions, and I don't want to do that. So feel free to reach out to me or to our VIP, and somebody can let you know and walk you through what those are and understand honestly what your needs are, and make some recommendations.
Wow, that's an
Um,
excellent answer. Thanks a lot. I know nobody really asked how Hostaway is different from different systems, but whatever system you're doing right now or using right now, please put it in, just open up a new tab in Google, type in Hostaway versus your current system. Whatever result you'll click on there, I'm sure you'll get a good overview there from the reviews of other property managers.
And I think the last question that one of the last, there's a lot in here, and I'm so sorry if we didn't get to them. I know we're almost out of time. But one of the questions was, how do you recognize your team and cleaners? This doesn't have to be a lot. I don't think that people are looking for like you to run ads in the newspaper about how wonderful they are. But I think team meetings, newsletters highlighting and showcasing the folks within your team and how important they are is really important. Not only because it gives them visibility across their peers, but also it sort of introduces them to maybe your homeowners who they may not interact with as much. A lot of people will do a summer barbecue and they'll just do something as simple as like hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill at the office and ask their team to come over and give them a way to chat and to kind of talk. James Skinner, who is amazing and has been doing this for a long time. He runs Brindley Beach Vacations over in the Outer Banks, and they have about 800 homes. And he does some really cool things. Every Saturday morning, his housekeepers actually come to their laundry facility to pick up all of the bags. And he runs like promotions. He throws money. Like you've got Dirk Johnson, who, if you don't know Dirk, he has been doing this as long as I have, longer, in fact, as a property manager and now as a consultant. And he has so many fun ways to help with team building and motivating your staff. He's another really great resource to look at and to get some, get some ideas from. So.
All right, I see we have most of the questions answered here, and we're a bit over time. But I wanted to ask everyone on behalf of the team at Hostaway, thank you so much for joining. We will post this on YouTube later on, and we'll see how we can get that list from Corin as well, so that you can join all those groups. Any last thoughts, Corin?
No, I'm so excited. I think that this is so fun, and it's so important to be able to share with everybody what we're hearing at a high level, and then be able to answer some of these questions. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to sit with us and to stay on. I know we are over a little bit, and thanks to Marcus for your partnership. And we're really excited about everybody getting into season and being able to help execute on operations.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and see you next month on our next month's webinar. Bye.